Hello and welcome to the Punish for Protecting Live broadcast with your host, Francesca Amato, national expert in the Americans with Disabilities Act, domestic violence and child abuse advocate, best-selling author, and founder of Punished for Protecting Incorporated. We welcome all of our viewers watching on Facebook via Punished for Protecting News and the CPS News Network. If you're watching on YouTube at Punish No More and Free to Protect, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. You can also find Punish for Protecting News on Rumble. Now, without further ado, here is your host, Francesca Amato.
Hello and good evening, everyone. And thank you for coming to watch Punish for Protecting News tonight. No matter what channel you're watching it from, we welcome you. As you know, I've been having stories out for many years now of the horrific things that are occurring in what they're calling the family court. And it is kind of a conundrum to hear those two words together, family court. But over the years, we have found many different ways to help families throughout this rogue system get some help in these courts. And it's always something very important to me when I see another advocate out there that has experienced some of the hell that most of us have experienced throughout the system, but then decides to turn it from a victimship to a victory, whereby she is out there in the front lines fighting for multitudes of others that are out there. And what I've noticed over my years is that the system is crumbling. It's crumbling, it's imploding in on itself. When I work with clients on an individual basis, it literally helps to affect people on a corporate basis. And so when we have more people that are fighting, more voices being heard, more people just invoking rights and standing and advocating for others, it helps us to stop the insanity that's going on. Tonight, I have a very special guest. And so what I'd like you guys to do is spread this video to all your friends lists. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, Rumble, or I don't know where you're watching it from, please spread. And don't forget, guys, to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon on the YouTube channel and on Facebook. Without further ado, I'm going to bring out my guest, Bethany James.
Hello, how are you tonight?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I am honored. Thank you. This is amazing. This is amazing. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. So I was scrolling through. It wasn't that. It was somebody actually that sent me the video that you did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, somebody sent it to me, and then I found you on TikTok, and I was like so impressed with what you did. And a lot of my viewers know, like I did something similar with the New York State Assembly, right. And I was like, oh my God, she sounds like me, but like she's doing it in Arizona, which is that particular spot you did that was in Arizona, which is so corrupt. I mean, I've known some
the dirtiest of the dirty.
Oh my goodness,
one of the dirtiest of the dirty. It's in the top 3 for sure.
Yeah. Oh gosh. And like, I remember a couple of years ago, this really lovely mother, a Christian mother, like just a wholesome human being. She had her special needs kid and she went for a second opinion and they ripped him away for years. And it was the most heartbreaking thing. And then they like arrested her. They drove her when they arrested her. They drove her.
Yeah, and that's what they do in Arizona. They arrest you so that they can incarcerate you to strip your children. I have clients with some of the most horrific stories who are victims of human trafficking, quite literally as children, and have stories that end up landing in Arizona because it's such the hotbed of human trafficking. It's crazy.
It is.
I have crazy cases.
It is
crazy cases.
She was speaking out, and so what they did is, and thankfully she's no longer in jail, but they literally took her and they drove her around a morgue. They drove her slowly around a morgue, okay? this is very psychotic behavior. And then when they got her out of the house, let me go to that part first. When they got her out of the house, this little tiny innocent woman, one of the officers put his boot on her head and held her to the ground for a while. Like,
oh, they're some of the dirtiest cops in the country, and I've witnessed it.
oh,
And when they came to my house one time, I looked at a cop and I said, one day I will be sitting in front of you and I will be schooling you on how to do your job and treat domestic violence victim and child abuse victims. Give me your badge number and give me your card. I said, I'm telling on all the way up. And I said, and mark my words, because of the egregious, horrific treatment of victims and the refusal to follow the laws on the book. And in Arizona, emotional, psychological abuse is considered felony child abuse.
Yes.
Yes. And, and there's levels of it, and it's in the code and nobody follows it. And so if nobody's following it, if judges and lawyers aren't following the Constitution, and if cops aren't following the laws that we put on the books, then what do we have?
You're 100% right. You're 100% right. And you actually went through, did you start doing this because of what you specifically went through, or were you actually helping? Like, I was advocating first, and then I got retaliated by a judge, and then I blew it up into more helping people and so on. Is that what you did too? Or did it start out because you were kind of thrown into it and then you decided, oh my gosh, I'm going to start helping people? Like, how did that happen with you?
I've been in the family court system since I was 3. I was basically legally kidnapped by the woman who raised me from my mother. My mother got pregnant with me at 17 with my father, who was 24, 25, something like that, 7 years old or something like that. And I'm literally like a real live Britney Spears, who was raised by a woman who just tortured me and kept me from my mom. So I literally went 17 years without speaking to my mom. This 2 summers ago was the first summer my mom actually met my children, because of the emotional and psychological abuse that the woman who raised me, and I'm not allowed to call her my grandma because she's not biologically related to me. My mom was adopted by her. That's a whole other story. But, so I've been in this system my entire life. And when I competed, I think for Miss California, for Miss America, I got on stage and I said I wanted to be a child psychologist, and I wanted to go into the entertainment industry and helping kids in the entertainment industry, because at 18, I'd been in the entertainment industry since I was 3. I was done.
Yeah.
I had all my money stolen. She thought she owned me, and she's a sociopath, like documented. It's done, and she died last year. So that's given me the freedom and the voice to get my power back, because she was the biggest abuser. And of course she was a teacher, and so I've seen this. I've seen the beginnings and the makings of, someone who is really psychotic my entire life. And obviously that drew me into studying psychology and so on. And it was more what drove, I was supposed to go to law school, got pregnant, I couldn't do law school with I was 24, became a single mom. That was a fun story, and I went back to school to be a paralegal, and they just don't get paid enough. And I was making more money at the restaurant, but so I've always been passionate about the law, I've had plenty of people. One of my best friends said the minute I walked into first grade, they thought I was going to be the president because I was, bossing everybody around, but I've been growing up on like TV sets and stuff. So, it is what it is. And so it wasn't really until this custody case began and my daughter started to disclose her abuse, and she started to disclose her abuser's tactics, who was her father, that really it was like, oh my gosh, he was saying things, almost verbatim that my abuser would say to me and treat her the same way. So it was like, what is this? What is this? And connecting more of the dots, and then really seeing and putting together the years of abuse I had endured. And we were never married. And I went 6 years without taking him to court in California, all kinds of stuff. And he basically set it up to take her to Arizona because he knew it was a father's right state. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. And his mom's a paranoid schizophrenic, and it's all documented. It's not libelous. It's not slanderous. It's not defamation. It is what it is. And nobody's looking at facts. Nobody's looking at my daughter's story. Nobody's understanding that my daughter literally attempted suicide. because of this. He was trying to get passports to take her to Russia. She came home and she said, I'm not going to see you again. He tells me all the time he's going to take me from you. You know, you're dealing with a seriously mentally ill man who had CPS called on him by a mandated reporter at school, you know, and he with the most money shall win this fight, right?
Well,
and so when I see an injustice, I fight. It's just my personality. You know, my therapist says you're the rare 1%, Bethany. Just keep speaking. You see the truth. Just keep fighting, and you can't stop. And that's what it's been. I haven't seen my daughter in 2 years.
This is horrible. It's just horrible. It's just horrible. Now, you know, like I said, I've been doing this for over 15 years, and I did take an equal amount of dads and mothers a few years ago, and I started weeding the dads out because it didn't take us long to start saying, oh my goodness, they all started with the same story, that they were falsely accused and that she's this and she's that and she's crazy and she's a liar, and that she's alienating and and we found out that he was in fact abusing, and we did find a history, and then they started being very attacking to us and abusive, so they kind of showed their true colors. And one of the key things is that they'll always say, I want full custody. I want full custody. And any of the decent dads, the good dads, they never say those words. That's
the telltale sign. And they tell on themselves. And if you really understand dark psychology and the psychology of the dark triad and the narcissist and the sociopath and the psychopath and the Machiavellian complex and the Napoleon complex and all of that, you will understand that they all speak the same language. They all talk the same, you know, and they're all driven by the same thing: money, power, control, greed. You know, it's just, they just ownership. They just want ownership of you, and they just want to destroy your life. And they come in all shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
And they run wild, you know,
and they run wild. And it's
unchecked, wild and unchecked. That's more what it is. And my platform, where I'm going to is trying to raise awareness and teach people psychology, the basic psychology, so that they understand what these red flags are, right? Red flags. I write music, and I wrote a song, Red Flag. You know, these are the red flags that we need to be looking for. But so many of us come from homes just like this, right? So many of us come from abused homes. So when we're children and don't truly understand that we've been abused, or to the extent and no one's listened to us, we've never been heard, they tell us we're crazy, what happened to us didn't happen, then we don't understand how to process healthy emotions and healthy relationships, and the cycle repeats itself. And here we are today, you know?
No, it's true. And the courts don't understand, or they just ignore it basically, but
they ignore it because
what really
they profitize, you know, it's money. Now it's a dollar sign.
Yeah. And I'll give you an example. And I don't know if you run into the same as I did, but I'll give you an example. I have multiple cases where, and I'm just, you know, like, people that watch me know that I'm not anti-father in any way, shape, or form, but
I'm not. Yeah. I have fathers.
Yes, you know? But I am anti-father abusing women and children. Clearly, I'm
absolutely. Not that. And I think there's a lot of people that kind of penetrate these organizations and stuff intentionally to figure out your tactics and all of that.
Oh yeah.
And I've already kind of ran into that. But if you truly understand psychology and how to read their personalities, you sniff them out real quick.
That's right.
And that's what you got to get really good at, is sniffing them out. And that's what I'm really good at, is sniffing them out.
Now I can spot
them. That's what I specialize in.
Yeah. But one of the things I really loved when I saw your speech in Arizona was that you were really talking about the truth about parental alienation. And so why don't you touch on that for the audience today? Because, you know, they like to use that. They like to use that term, like as if a mom is alienating the father, when she's protecting the child, and then the judge punishes her by taking the child away. So now the judge technically alienated the mother and the child. So talk about that.
Would you like how much in detail? How much time do we have?
Oh, you're okay for a while. You're okay for a while.
I could break it down. Okay. Because I think it needs to be broken down, and it needs to be broken down in a simplistic way. I'm working on drafting petitions and legislation for many a multitude of issues in this country. And basically what they're saying, if you're going to draft a bill, you got to put it in some simplistic language. And I live in the South, so I understand the education level of true America and literacy issues and everything else. So we have to keep things at a third to fourth grade level, according to American statistics. So I'm trying to break things down in terms of the basics of psychology, so everyone can understand the importance of the words that are coming out of my mouth, because we all have to get on the same page about this.
That's right.
We can't continue to have this infighting in this community, because we're not getting anywhere. We're spinning our wheels, and that's exactly what they want. They want us to look like a bunch of crazy people spinning our wheels. So I'm going to break it down. And the most simplest of ways, I hope, that I've been working on, because this is a project I'm actually working on so I can teach lawyers and judges and everybody else, this is what it is.
Yes.
Okay. Parental alienation syndrome in and of itself, PAS, is a legal defense. Okay. It's not a mental illness. It's not a mental condition. It is absolutely nothing but a legal defense. So the way I break it down is to think of it like this. If you were going to go to criminal court and you were to be charged with a crime, you would have a defense, right? The state would come after you on one side and your lawyer would come after you and you'd have a defense. Okay. This guy who started creating all of this fun stuff started many years ago in the 70s, started noticing a pattern in the family court. So he saw basically a business opportunity. Let's just break it down. And he saw an opportunity, because he doesn't sound like he was a mentally sound individual, to profit off of the pain of others, right? And what is the definition of a sociopath or a psychopath? It's someone who who gets off on the pain of somebody else. They love it. They love it. They live for it. Gives them energy, right? I call them energy vampires. So then now you go into family court, and now this new trend that I've really seen across America through all my cases is that whatever they're going to accuse you of in family courts, somehow they're going to try to twist and turn the narrative in criminal courts, because really worldwide, the AFCC, the Fathers' Rights Organization, behind this movement to use this legal defense to protect pedophiles, child abusers, domestic violence perpetrators, etc., is behind this. This is a father's rights movement. This is a money movement. These are the sick people, that are torturing children. They don't care. They don't care. So they created this legal defense, and they learned that they could train people, a multitude of people, guardian ad litems, judges, lawyers, therapists, and everything, on this way called parental alienation syndrome, which is a syndrome Dr. Richard Gardner, who is a psychopath. And if you Google Richard Gardner, New York, and you read case law and you read how many times they tried to use his crap in criminal court and judges threw it out because it was not scientifically proven and there was no evidence. So you should not be able to use one defense or one, science terminology in one court, not the other, because one says recognizes it and the other doesn't. If you Google Dr. Gardner and you learn how sick and psychotic that man was, you will understand quickly, how the heck is this still being allowed? Well, it's being allowed because we have a lot of sick people in this country who like to do sick things to women and children and men. We have a lot of mentally ill people in this country who run around unchecked, and we have children who are just being abused every single day. Now, I'm going to use a word that's going to tick a lot of people off. And I, the child abuse survivor, the one who has lived this nightmare as a child, the one who speaks for your children, because that's what I do. I speak for your children because I'm the adult version of them. That child in me is wanting to say that alienation in and of itself is real, because I was alienated. The definition of alienation is keeping someone away, and if you alienation is weaponizing a child, right? Which is the true definition. And Dr. Gardner stabbed himself to death. You can Google that, which is the true definition of stuff. So you've got to look at, oh gosh, I was reading this. I lost my train of thought, but you've got to look at this.
But that's a very good point, and it had to go on the screen while you're talking.
I was like, wait, how does this happen? Wait, what was I saying? You have to remind my ADHD brain goes.
And certain ones get pulled up onto the screen. So if it distracts you, don't read it.
Okay, don't read it. Oh Lord, my ADHD brain goes, what? What's this? Something shiny.
At some point, they'll be asking you a question, and I'll say, here's some questions, but it's not that time now. So keep going, because you're doing amazing.
Okay.
Amazing.
Okay. Wait, where did I leave off? What was I saying?
You're talking about Dr. Gardner, and then you were talking about, you said, I'm gonna say something that's gonna probably bother some people.
Right. And so that's the word alienation.
Yeah,
So basically what this industry has done, of this cottage industry, and it's really a cottage niche industry. This is a defense of privilege and money, because if you're looking at being accused as a domestic violence perpetrator, a child abuse perpetrator, a molester, a predator in some way, then theoretically speaking, if you're guilty of that crime in family court, we should be able to take you over to criminal court and hold you accountable for some felonies, right? Theoretically, if the law is applied applicably the way it should be, right? Isn't that where it's supposed to work? But that's not how it works in family court, because it's a magical place where they make up their own laws,
it's treason.
their own rules.
It's treason.
It's just no one adheres to the Constitution. It's just this thing, it's just family court. And if you talk to real lawyers, outside of family court, I'm like, what do you think of those family lawyers? They're like, oh my gosh. I had a lawyer, a very prominent attorney, goes, how do you sleep at night knowing you're charging someone whose wife, is going through hell, $50,000? He goes, I had a friend, and these are
100%.
billionaires I'm talking to, whose divorce cost him $2 million.
And over. I've seen it.
It's just money. And that's what it is. And that's what parental alienation syndrome is. It's a legal defense to fuel, the family law cottage community that are trying to protect horrible and horrific abusers.
Yeah.
And they hate women. They want to own women. They are those types of individuals. And if you look at the personality test, if you look at the personality traits, if you really dissect these cases and understand anything about personality and have true psychologists, psychiatrists, forensic psychiatrists who are truly about the best interest of the child, they look at these people and say, oh my gosh, off the chart, this individual shouldn't even have contact with this child.
But
now we have all these fathers' rights movements saying, 50-50, 50-50. And they're all connected to this parental alienation stuff.
That's 100%, 100%, 100%.
And if you get involved in your local politics, like I did the first time I spoke in that Arizona FCIC meeting, I heard it. I heard them. I stayed an hour later, or maybe it was an hour before. I don't know. I stayed on the call an hour before, an hour later. And there was a state representative getting on there, and I mean, trashing women and trying to make new legislation about the child support calculator and laws about changing the time limits on alimony and all that stuff. And this guy, I mean, this is a public forum. This representative, he's literally said, well, maybe it should be done away with, because it's really not the man's job to support the woman, and she just needs to get out and go get a job. And you can't talk, you're on mute. And I just wanted to say, so what about the women who have children with disabilities? What about these women who are being intentionally abused and cheated on, which is emotional abuse? It's domestic violence, and being pushed through all this stuff, and now going through a divorce. Like, I say there's a war raging against women and children and abuse victims.
There's been
across the globe.
There's been clearly a war raging, and you're 1,000,000% correct. I'm going to show something when we get back after the intermission, but you're 1,000,000% correct about parental alienation. And that's why I wanted you to come out, because I wanted you to literally expose it. And those of you that are watching, share this video with everybody, to educate them on what we've been talking about for so long. And all these judges, and the majority of these, judges and attorneys are sociopaths, narcissists, and
it is right there. You hit it right on the button. And we need to use the proper vernacular when we're describing these individuals, because good, there's always good and bad. And in every entity, there's good judges, there's bad judges, there's good lawyers, there's bad lawyers. And I know a lot of good lawyers and judges out there. I was raised by doctors and lawyers, and in this environment of people, there's good ones out there, but the good ones got to take the bad ones out and start calling them out for who they are. And they're psychopaths, sociopaths, narcissists, Machiavellian complexes, the whole triad of dark psychology. They fit, and they are, that 2% of the population within the legal community, because statistics are statistics. And if 2%, 3% of the population have deep psychological issues, and 4% of the population, it's almost 4% of the American population are lawyers, within that 4%, there's going to be a subcategory of the 1 to 2% of the crazy people. And I think they're in the family court system. I swear. I don't know. That's my breakdown of it.
That got an applause. That got an applause. That was awesome. That was the most beautifully said and so necessary. We're about to go to an intermission, guys, but stay right there because we have more with Bethany James.
We'll be right back after a message from Punished for Protecting Incorporated. Each new generation of protective mothers is shocked when they first go to family court and find it doesn't favor single mothers and is willing to jeopardize children. Francesca's harrowing experience with the broken family court system, from which she finally received justice after 8 months of struggle, is proof that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Francesca has one of these unspeakably cruel cases and has responded by shining a large spotlight on widespread failures so other mothers won't be shocked. Punished for Protecting the Injustice System of Family Court by Francesca Amato Banfield, advocate, mother, whistleblower, founder, and TV talk show host of Punished for Protecting. If you are struggling with injustices wrought by our courts, this book will help guide you through the process. Available on Amazon.com. Search Punished for Protecting and get your copy today. Help abolish family court by purchasing Punished for Protecting merchandise. Here are our top sellers. See the link in the YouTube video description to find out how to get your Punished for Protecting t-shirt. Get your high-quality Punished for Protecting t-shirt while supplies last and let everyone know that you stand for justice. Are you being re-victimized by the family court system? Do you need help with your case? Go online and book a talk with Francesca. Go to punished4beingAparent.com/book-a-talk. Fill in your name, email address, and message to Francesca. Someone will get back to you within 24 hours. Francesca and her staff of volunteers continue to work tirelessly every single day for parents and children who are in need of their help. There have been multiple success stories, including Francesca's, which gives hope to others in similar situations. Punished for Protecting Incorporated has incurred out-of-pocket expenses with zero funding to help families get their children back or to save their children from being taken. We also have provided funds to help with retainers, food, lodging, and travel. We really need your help so we can continue to provide our many services. Any amount is greatly appreciated. If you'd like to donate or sponsor a family in need of help, go to Cash App, Free the Children. And now back to our broadcast.
We're back. We're back. So, Bethany, talk to the audience and tell everybody what it is that you've been doing to help families since you've been so deeply involved in all of this.
I'm very unique in how I approach my cases and what I do, because I have a very different and very unique perspective given my history. So I do a lot of intake, kind of how a paralegal would, and I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to give you legal advice, but I'm going to advise you kind of maybe where your case should go, maybe some legal defenses. I go and talk to lawyers and sit down and basically, say, are you a member of the AFCC? I had one lawyer said, F no. And I said, we're best friends. We're best friends. That's the first question that comes out of my mouth. If they say yes, I said, oh, really? So do you use the parental alienation syndrome legal defense in your practice? Because if you do, you are practicing unethical law, and you're engaging in unethical medical practice, and you should lose your law license. I'm a business consultant. I've been in the restaurant business. I have ran $1 million operations. I am a boss. Everyone who knows me knows I am a boss. And so I just look at you. If you're charging $400 an hour, you better do your job. So when people hire me, I just hold people accountable, and I hold their feet to their own fire. Do your job. All I'm asking for is for you to do your job. If there's evidence in your email, look at the evidence, because you can't just keep saying, oh, didn't look at it. And that's what these judges do. They don't look at the evidence. The guardian ad litems don't look at the evidence. And so they make these broad orders that give your abuser so much control over you. And they do it intentionally because they know what they're doing is illegal and unconstitutional, because they took all those oaths. They know what they're doing, yet they continue to do it and violate your civil rights and your constitutional rights and so much more. You due process, all of this good stuff, right? And so I kind of come on the scenes and say what's going on and dissect a lot of this and try to navigate and connect and kind of be the communicator, okay, we got to talk to this person and this, because every case is complex. Every case is different. I deal with cases CPS, DCSF. I deal with just high conflict custody. I deal with some disability stuff, but a lot of these cases have disability stuffs and issues in it, and judges are just completely ignoring.
Completely unversed.
I mean, it's like you got her disability check in your face. You see what her income is. Don't you need to ask what her disability accommodation needs to be if she's on disability? Like, shouldn't that be a box you got to check?
Well, that's my area that I'm a forensic expert.
Right. And I have had 3 women come to me in the last 24 hours with, the most horrific ADA violations in their cases. One up in Chicago, where basically the judge said, you're recording this Zoom meeting. You're out of here. You can't even come into your own hearings. You're out of here. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, you can request your legal transcripts, like audio and Zoom. Like, what is going on here?
They're supposed to get they're supposed to get them for free when you have ADA rights.
Yeah.
You're supposed to ask for, you don't have to.
Listen to this. This judge is ordering her to produce.
Say that again?
This judge, it's not the lawyers, it's the judge up in Chicago.
In Virginia.
Putting orders for her to produce all kinds of documents.
Yeah.
Knowing this woman is, it is.
Yeah.
I just screamed today.
My own head off by the end of the day.
Yes.
And I'm like,
it's not good for my health to stay mad like this. But hey, it's not good for our health. But gosh, someone has to give it a voice. This is insanity. I wrote a song, this is insanity. This is madness. This is absolute madness.
It is.
And it's been allowed to continue, and it's trickled down in everything. And family court, there's just a little niche spotlight on it right now, right?
Yep.
And this is a little issue within a much bigger issue that we've got to really be talking about. But first, where you got to start somewhere, right? And you got to have a game plan.
Yes.
And that's where at this point, everyone knows I'm going to run for office at some point or do something crazy like this. Everyone knows when I start making my music, it's going to be good, and it's like, okay, how can I get my face in front of this? How can I advocate for these children? Because enough is enough. We've got to save our babies from this, because I'm the victim of the long-term psychological and emotional damage. I'm the victim. I know what it does to my brain. I know how it's impacted my body. I know how trauma lives in your body. And that's what I study. So not only am I working on my cases just because I'm mad and I want to save some babies, but really what I'm doing is a lot of intake to have the notes. So when I work towards my dissertation to get my PhD, and when I'm studying how trauma looks in the body, emotional and psychological. So it's just a crime across the board, across the world, right?
Yes.
And but you've got to have the studies and you've got to have the science and the data, and you've got to show people just how damaging this kind of abuse is to children's brains. It literally causes traumatic brain injuries to
That's right.
domestic violence victims.
And
Harvard's got a study going on.
to the parents and to these mothers and children, it's absolutely diabolical. And the fact that
And I see the physiological issues, I see the memory issues, I see all this stuff, and I'm just like, have you ever had your brain looked at? Have you ever
yeah,
seen a neuropsychiatrist?
yeah,
And these are women who have had their heads beaten in between
mhm,
door frames.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, the horror stories. I mean, you talk about me being on the front line, girl, they on the front line.
But the thing is that if they, like you can see visual bruises and things like that. What they have to get versed in is the invisible injuries and and the fact that when a forensic expert like myself comes in with the ADA and I'm giving you all the everything that I can give you, I'm training them as
So
I
that's
go,
how you do, yeah.
still insisting that you can decide to grant or deny a right that somebody has. And I explain it in C-spot run language to make it really simple with pictures, like you would do
Oh,
if you
you put
were.
pictures. We're do third grade level with pictures. I need to make a picture book.
I do
This is
it
what this is. I'm working on a children's series. Like, do we need to make it at a fourth
I
grade
don't do
level?
I do it verbally. But I do it in like very C-spot run language so that I can.
C
So
spot red. Oh, hilarious. That's great. You're
right,
brilliant. You are
I
brilliant.
they have to because they don't want to get it. And then I do a forensic report, or I do like a letter.
Plausible deniability.
It's
Deflection.
exactly right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Using the proper vernacular
Yep.
to call things out is very important. So we start understanding what is plausible deniability.
Yep.
What is disassociation?
Yep.
What are the actual terms behind the behavior and which is unfolding before our
Well,
eyes?
I'm going to show a clip right now. It's a little under 4 minutes because I felt that
Okay.
I had it uploaded just for you. Okay.
Okay.
Because if this doesn't describe the judges and the attorneys and CPS workers and politicians and presidents and so on and so forth, I don't know what does. Let's watch.
All right. Let's do
Edition of the
this.
Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. This disorder is characterized by lack of empathy, lack of remorse, and antisocial behavior. Hollywood loves to portray psychopathy as madness to ensure a box office hit, but in everyday life, that's not necessarily true. When it comes to the likelihood of having a psychopath in your life, the odds are not in your favor. According to Dr. Paul Bobiak, 1 in every 100 people is likely to have psychopathic traits, and the probability is even higher as you go up in the office food chain, where you'll find 1 among every 25 managers and executives. The real reasons behind psychopathy are usually narrowed down to genetic factors. Yes, many criminals are psychopaths, but the majority of psychopaths are not involved in criminal acts at all. Here are 10 key traits of psychopaths. 1. Lack of empathy. A psychopath simply cannot feel what everyone else feels. They understand your feelings, but they don't feel them. Even if you're crying your heart out over the death of a loved one, they'll show compassion only to please you, not out of true emotional empathy. 2. Manipulativeness. Always knowing the right strings to pull and the right buttons to push, psychopaths use deception to cheat others into thinking, believing, or acting in certain ways. They only focus on personal gains with no concern whatsoever for how others feel. 3. Irresponsibility. Impulsive behavior and irresponsibility is their lifestyle. A psychopath would never admit to their mistakes. In fact, they turn the tables against whoever accuses them of anything so that the accuser would think again and even feel guilty about their complaints. 4. Narcissism. Psychopaths usually view themselves as smarter, more powerful, and of more worth than everyone else. They have an extravagant, almost theatrical self-perception, thinking that the world revolves around just themselves. 5. Pathological lying. Psychopaths tend to lie, and lie even more. Their lives are spider webs of lies. This ranges from moderate levels to high levels of lying. 6. Superficial charm. Smooth, charming, and attractive, psychopaths aren't afraid to do or say anything they like. That absence of embarrassment attracts others, as it can be misperceived as high self-confidence. Their Hawkeye glares are mistaken for sexual magnetism by women. 7. Lack of remorse. Psychopaths don't feel guilty for the suffering and pain they inflict on others, or for their actions in general. 8. Proneness to boredom. Forever bored, psychopaths have an exaggerated need for adrenaline overdose, so they're always looking for excitement and thrill. 9. Bullying. Psychopaths are usually abusive towards those that are not of much benefit to them. This could be subordinates, elderly people, children, or in most cases, animals. They like to exercise their power over other fragile beings through bullying, and they may shoot hurtful words at any time without warning. 10. Sucker for power. They have an excessive need to exercise power and control over others. In other words, they are control freaks. Everything must go the way they want it to. And that's it for the 10 main traits of psychopaths.
I mean, tell me that that's not 7, 9, 10. I mean,
Yeah,
no
but
one,
tell me we can't just apply that to society in a blanket manner and say,
when you said so many people have these borderline personalities and narcissism and sociopathy, but these people are in these positions. They're in positions as judges. They're positions as policemen. They're in positions as, they've seen the one part, bullying, and
so
have no empathy for the most vulnerable, elderly, children, and animals. And they're gaining, and they're
because they can
literally
submit them.
see it. You can watch them and you can
Because they
see
can
it.
submit them. And I've had some conversations with my clients recently about it, in terms of these dark personality people know that they have problems. So they tend to seek out positions of power, or positions where they can hide, or positions where they're going to get certain accolades, or, automatic assumption that they're someone for children or whatever. But when really they use these positions of power to fuel their psychopathic behavior. And like, my abuser was a teacher. She was the president of the California Teachers Association. She was in the NEA. Like, and I remember exactly what she used to do to kids of color. She was the most racist, hateful human being I've ever met. She was Mother Gothel reincarnated. And that's all they are.
Yeah.
And they're energy suckers, they're energy vampires. And they come in all shapes, forms, and sizes. They're just horrible people that take and take and take. And they're all the same. And they can't change. Let's be very clear about this. They can't change.
They literally can't. It's one of those things that, like, I mean, maybe a needle in a haystack with the right therapy and willingness to get it.
And that's someone who might be with borderline narcissism or something like that. But someone who's a sociopath or a psychopath, in many instincts, you were born with something wrong with you.
When you go through those 10, it's like, I've been doing this for 15 years, watching judges all over the country. And this is what I see. And the majority of bar members, now I just got off with a law firm earlier today. I'm going to be interviewing him on my program. Ethical, professional, and educated. If they were like, but see, somebody like that would never be a family court attorney.
That's it. And I had a very, very, very prominent attorney and a very prominent trial attorney down here in Louisiana. Louisiana is Napoleon law and stuff, who filled me in on all this stuff. And that's what they said. Yeah. That is what they've said. They said reputable lawyers don't go into family law. Like, that's kind of the thing, because it's known to be so corrupt. Like, if you're going to be a doctor, they say, if you've known anybody that's been a doctor, there's certain types that go into plastics. There's certain types that go to be OB in general, because basically everything's elementary, high school politics. Everyone kind of stays in their groups, right? For the rest of our lives. And that's what happens here. These, a bully is always a bully. Someone who's seeking power is always going to seek power, and they're always going to seek a way, to shift blame onto somebody else and never be accountable for anything.
And what does a bully do, though? They tell you you're crazy and be quiet, and
they gaslight you. What are those words? It's gaslighting you.
The judges do the same thing. They do the same.
It's crazy making, because all crazy people do is make crazy making stuff happen. They're crazy makers.
And then they tell you,
no matter where you're at, they're going to make crazy, and they're always going to project their stuff back onto you. It's always going to be your fault, you know, whether they have deep-rooted, deep-seated mommy or daddy issues, it's either one of them. That's at the core root of all of this.
Yeah. But
you know, attachment issues, maybe some genetic components to it, but it's mostly unresolved childhood trauma.
So full of their own hatred and so on and so forth, and they're
so lost in their own sauce and insanity.
They want to reproduce people like them that are narcissists, so they separate.
Well, it's the need to control, right?
Yeah,
it's the need to control. Yeah, and in my case, this is most definitely an issue, and it's the need to control. It's the need to own me. It's the need to own me. And when they reproduce with you, you know, you can get divorced or whatever, but if you have a child, they own you. You know, marriage is the biggest contract you can make, really. But having a child with someone is really the biggest contract you make in your life. And, you know, a lot of these sick men, they don't care about their kids. I talked to a woman today whose ex-husband was making hell and she sold her kids for $2,000. They don't care about their kids. No. This is about owning you.
Every time a case is finally at the point where we get the children back to the parent, the mother or whatever, or the father moves on with his other family, they truly show that they never cared to begin with. But when I'm saying they want to reproduce, I'm not even talking about the families. I'm talking about the judges. I'm talking about point everything back to the judges because they are the gateway door. They're the ones,
and they keep everything in house, don't they?
Well, they're the ones that sign the orders, and I'm going to explain what I mean by reproduce. They want to reproduce narcissists like themselves. So by separating
absolutely.
So when they separate children from good mothers and dads, but when they separate children from a protective, loving mom and put the child into the hands of an abuser, you're now creating the next juvenile delinquents and the next narcissist.
Because it fuels the system.
It's disgusting. And so
I'm a civil rights activist. This is what I do down here in the South. I understand. It's feeding the system. And when all the systems are attached to each other, when there's a dollar amount attached to every child's head, you know, how can you do it? Yeah. Because children are the new, you know, it's the child slave trade. They've just learned how to control everybody through children. And they've learned how to make everyone dance by putting the children up for sale and saying child for sale, wrote a song called Child for Sale. And that's what they're doing.
Songs that would be,
and they don't care who they're hurting, and they don't care about the child abuse. All they care about is the money, honey.
That's 100%. So here's something I wanted to kind of run by you, because this is what I see all over. I see where they don't have a care in the world when they're switching a child, like whether you see CPS where they're ripping kids out, or a judge ordering to switch the child, you know, from the mother to the father, even though he's got a 70,000 page long criminal history or whatever.
Right. I have a case like that right now.
Begging to go back home. They don't care. But I just had recently, wait to hear this one. I just recently had where a judge and another judge is doing the same thing, is forcing the mother. And every time the mother doesn't do exactly what the sick, psychotic, sociopathic judge wants, she threatens that the mother won't see the child at all, let alone the little bit of tiny visit she gets for doing nothing wrong, mind you. She's got nothing.
I got a couple cases like that.
A ton, but the mother, there's nothing that actually reaches the criteria of having supervised visits in any state, but they're doing it to these mothers anyway. But
they're doing it because let's have a real honest conversation about that. It's because these for-profit entities that are responsible for the exchanging and the oversight of all of this make billions of dollars, and it's all privatized. And in Arizona, it's all connected. It's all connected. And there's judges and guardian ad litems and attorneys and people who are involved in CPS and everything, that many organizations and groups out there who are investigating on all of this have found, you know, all kinds of collusion and money and extortion and racketeering. Let's just name this what it is. It's white collar crime.
Yes,
this is a pyramid scheme. This is the ultimate pyramid scheme being played out in family court in America, and our children are pawns.
Every time you say something new, another judge goes to jail. I'm going to big applause. Something great. But let me just say this one thing. So recently, she forced the mother to sign a passport. And then so now check it out. The children can kick, scream, and cry that they don't want to live there in abuse. She doesn't care, or that he doesn't, whatever judge. But hold on to your seat. But because the children wanted to go to Aruba, she allows it, even though it's against the mother's better judgment and the mother's rights to not.
Because it's about the passport.
It's another parent. It's another mother situation with abuse. it's to go to where is it? Dominican Republic, I think it was. But anyway, one of them is under the Hague Convention, and one of Aruba's not. Okay. So
Mine was trying to go to Russia.
Well,
that's what started off my case.
But here's the problem, okay?
It's about the passports. Because once the father has the passports, and the father has full control of the child. And if the father is truly sick, and in some instances, in some cases, and I'm not going to be very specific, where they think the father is going to traffic the child, they need that passport, and they need those birth certificates.
Passport now. You got to remember, the passport's one thing. Now you're really going into federal and international law, because what happens in this particular case is this, okay? Once the Hague Convention is I don't know what the word would be for that, but invoked, I guess.
Invoked,
When it's not the Hague Convention, your child goes overseas, you're done. You have no remedy. You have no recourse.
I have a client right now that I just took on, and I did a live today with the intake where she's a nurse that's found her. Yeah. Oh my God, this is a horrible story where a woman who was on her way to Sweden during the pandemic, had her child removed, is in foster care. They've held her against her will in a hospital, saying she's got delusional, whatever it is. They've denied her access to the American embassy, and they've had her kid for a year.
I think we talked about that a couple weeks ago.
I just had the interview today. I just kind of did the intake live because they agreed to it. But and she told me to Google some terminology, and I'm going to do what I can tomorrow. But I don't know much about the Hague Convention, but I know many people that are coming to my direction have a case that involves this, and I'm like saying we need to have a conversation about
let me explain
leaving the country.
Let me tell you a little bit about that. So what they're doing is they're hiring on one person per court with, that is an actual licensed clinician of medical clinician. And they're utilizing that person when the people are family court involved to diagnose everybody with delusional disorder.
And they're not allowed to diagnose during this process. You're not a patient. Like, you're not allowed to.
I'm talking about an actual counselor, though. But
yeah.
Let me try to finish what I'm saying. So what happens is now, first of all, delusional disorder is in less than I think 1 or 2%, 1% of the whole entire group of everybody, the whole population. So you can't have that many people with delusional disorder, and they're only now. You have to understand also that certain aspects of post-traumatic stress or different types of things that are on the DSM-5 can appear, and it depends on if you're in a heightened state, a traumatic state,
where you are in the fight, flight, freeze, and how it's living in your body, and how much trauma you have, and how this is what I study.
Yeah. So now your ADA does protect you, but it's just about a matter of, I force my way in, and I make sure if you're not going to hear my mouth, you're going to see it in writing until I get what I need to help my client. If they completely deny their rights, we have other ways around it, which we're holding them accountable. And I am seeing a definite huge change.
You?
Oh my God. We're winning cases. We're kicking butt all over the place.
Well, and I think there's a national spotlight on this issue right now.
Well, we have what's the word I'm trying to say? What's happening? We have there's a word I'm trying to use, but like there's them and there's us, okay? And we have grown into this, like, taking on its own life now.
The good versus the evil kind of thing.
Youth is speaking out. Like, if you go on TikTok, you're going to see foster kids that are blowing up all over
everywhere.
Exposing. You've seen Travis probably. He's blowing up. And exposing it. So what's happening is that I am getting what I need because it's all lawful, okay? And I have my own immunity. I am getting what I need, but not in all the courts. I still got the real crummy ones, but I have ones that are doing the right thing. They're not doing the custody order properly, but they are doing the right thing with certain aspects, which is helping to
set up
people and to win the case. But it does monkey wrench them in the court where they can't move in certain directions too, which is a wonderful thing. So we're not losing everything. We are winning a lot. But the problem is that we have to take the system down. So if I can't abolish it all in one big day, which is what I want to do, I'm abolishing it section by section. And then when I work, like I said before, this helps people corporately. So don't think that, and I always train my people too, don't get all upset. I know it's very upsetting if you think you lost today, because what looks like a loss many times is a win. And it's a win.
I say, you want to win the war, not the battle. There during a war, there's many battles that will be lost. It's about being
Yes.
victorious at the end and winning
Yes.
the war. And the war is in your child. It's getting your child to safety. That's the war, is getting your child out of the hell and the trauma that they're enduring and surviving it and thriving after it, and moving forward in your life, because that's what this is about. And my platform is teaching people how to push through this, to keep going and to heal from all this trauma, because I can tell you, you can do it, because I've done it, and it takes a lot of work. But the sooner we nip it in the butt with these children, and the more resources and help we put out on the table, and the faster we end it, the faster we can get to work with healing these babies.
See, now look at this. I know we only have a few minutes, but look at this particular on the screen right now. And this is what we see every single day, all day long, all over the country.
All day long. All day long. They're running free. But then I have 2 cases in Arizona where it's almost like they were entrapped to get arrested, like they were set up intentionally. And then they got the mothers to sign their rights away in jail, or they went in almost immediately when mom was incarcerated in with custody and modification changes. So it's like a bait and switch tactic. It's, to me, I see it too often to think it's not a legal tactic.
100%. So they said, amazing that my ex was molesting my oldest daughter and was arrested for shoplifting, and the family court didn't care. It's very true. This is what happens. This is what happens. I do have one quick question for you, because we do have to wrap, and it's going to go to credits in a very short moment here, but you'll have a minute to answer. Bethany, maybe I missed it, but can you update us on your own case? We did kind of talk about it in the beginning, but if you want to kind of just take a second or two on that one.
So I have walked away from the fight, and my daughter knew this. I literally almost died of COVID during this whole thing, and was living in Arizona during the pandemic in the restaurant industry, and got COVID 3 times. And, at the advisement of my domestic violence therapist and some of the best trauma therapists I've had, it was go save yourself, life jacket on first. You have to go heal, and you got to get your better self. And I told my daughter, mommy's coming back. My daughter's almost 16. In August, she will be 16. Mommy's coming back. But I'm not going to play their games. I'm going to hold everybody civilly accountable. And I'm working on with a coalition of some amazing women in Arizona. And we're going to start knocking on some doors and raising some attention. And some people are going to be held accountable at the end of the day. And my child will be freed, because she's just like me.
And she will be.
And she will be. And she's going to blaze the world down like all these children are when they're set free. When they're set free. It's time to set our children free.
That's right. 100%. It's been such a pleasure to have you on tonight. And
thank you.
I want you to come back and maybe sing a song or two while you're back.
Oh, I will. When the doctor gives me the okay to start singing, I will. For sure.
Awesome. But we will definitely have you back. And thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, anytime. And we'll be definitely working together and staying in
touch.
Oh,
yeah. I'll be in New York. We'll have to meet. I've got cases up there. We're coming. I'm coming for New York too. Because that's the state and the city that raised me and that kept me alive during my child abuse. So I love New York.
One more time. Say, New York, I'm coming for you.
New York, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for all of you.
So, well, again,
I have like 7 people in New York right now that are like, get up here. And I know a lot about New York.
Yeah. It's a lot of dirt going on here, but thank you again. And everybody, thanks for watching. Please be sure to share this video on YouTube. Please like, share, and definitely subscribe by hitting the bell icon so you don't miss any shows. This is also going to be a showing on Rumble, Punished for Protecting News on Facebook. Oh, and very importantly, if you need to reach Bethany James, you can find her on Instagram, you can find her on TikTok, and you can find her on Facebook. So again, thank you again, and have a great night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.